All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to call this regular scheduled meeting of the Sebastian City Council to order. We will please stand for a moment of silence, and then we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Vice Mayor Nunn. All right, thank you. Ed Dodd, pay attention.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Did Ed hear me?
I can hear you, I believe.
Okay. All right, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mayor Jones?
Here.
Vice Mayor Nunn?
Here.
Councilmember Dixon is excused tonight. Councilmember Dodd?
Here.
And Councilmember McPartland.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go for agenda modifications. I have a couple of things I just want to point out to council if you haven't seen that. On page 1 of our agenda, it says pages 1 through 4 for item C. That should be page 6 through 9. And then on the consent agenda, item A, that should be 10 through 12. Any other modifications? Anybody have any concerns with that?
I think there were a couple of the other numbers that are wrong, but I don't know them off the top of my
I don't
head,
either.
but I'm not going to worry.
Okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on. Mr. Ryan Butler, who is our Indian River County Clerk of the Circuit Court, will not be here until later, so I'm going to reserve some time for him later in the meeting. So we're going to, that's the other modification, by the way. So Mr. Butler will not be here for now. He'll be coming later. Next, we have a presentation by Pace.
Jordan Abbey.
Mr. Jordan Abbey.
Good evening. Thanks for your time tonight, and thanks for your invitation here to speak tonight. We gave this presentation a few weeks ago to the county commissioners about the PACE program, and it's definitely something that is relevant to the city as well and its residents. So we just want to take a few minutes here to give you an update on what's going on with these PACE loans and some developments that have been recent here. Just to start off, I think you might be familiar with PACE loans, but I wanted to do a brief summary. PACE stands for Property Assessed Clean Energy. It's a type of financing that homeowners can get for energy efficient, renewable energy, or wind resistance improvements to their house with no upfront costs. To get that, they have to enter into an agreement with a PACE district, which there are several of across Florida. There's really one we're going to focus on in this presentation. And then subject to interlocal agreement with both the county, or in this case, the municipality, and the tax collector, these improvements are paid off as a non-ad valorem assessment that's added to the property owner's tax bill. The repayment terms can vary, but a lot of them are up to 30 years at 10% interest. With that description, it sounds it could be an enticing program, but there are some concerns that are shared across the state and personally. So unlike conventional loans, PACE providers, they're exempt from truth in lending laws. So there's no credit check, employment verification, income verification, anything like that. The only requirement really on the homeowner's side is that they paid their taxes on time for the past 3 years. Another concern is that the length of the loans can often exceed the useful life of the improvement. So what we've seen PACE loans out there for a 30-year term for a new shingle roof. And I think a lot of us know right now with insurance companies the way they are, they're wanting a new roof after 15 years. So that's a big concern there as well. Since the loan is repaid with the tax bill or through the tax bill, a lot of homeowners are reporting that the program is being sold as a government program. While it was enacted by state statute, the program is not overseen by any state or any type of regulatory body at all. So it's not really a state program. And lastly, a point is that PACE loans properties with PACE loans are ineligible for FHA financing. In addition, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac won't back any mortgages on properties with PACE loans. So prospective buyers might have trouble getting financing, or sellers might have issues, finding a buyer in that scenario if they have one of these PACE loans on their property. Continuing with that, the Tampa Bay Times did a investigation a few years ago into this program, and some of the concerns that they had, I kind of summarized in this little clip here. The name of the article was Tax Hit, an energy efficiency finance program is trapping Florida homeowners in debt. So the homeowners the Times spoke to say they didn't have enough income to afford the bigger than expected loan payments. Too many of the contractors who performed the work targeted low-income, elderly, and non-English speaking residents who didn't understand or don't understand how the program works. They also said some of the critics accused contractors of charging excessive amounts for solar panels, air conditioners, things like that. And also, homeowners often have to sign these contracts on mobile devices or tablets, which makes it hard to review the terms after they've signed it, and they might not get their paperwork right afterwards. So it's hard for them to get an honest rundown of what they were signing. So with that understanding, just kind of to give you an overview of where the PACE program stands within the county and its municipalities, the Board of County Commissioners has voted against residential PACE programs operating in the county, the unincorporated part of the county in the past. There was a single commercial PACE project that was approved last year that we will be collecting on the tax roll. The city of Fellsmere, they do have an agreement with the Florida Green Finance Authority. And since that program was approved by the city, the tax collector will be collecting that assessment or those assessments on the tax roll. We did one last year and there'll be more this year as well. The city of Vero Beach, Indian River Shores, and Orchid don't have any agreements. And to my understanding, the city of Sebastian, they signed an agreement but withdrew it afterwards due to some concerns with the program that like we're sharing today. So there's no agreement with Sebastian. So that kind of brings us to our main point today. There is a PACE district, the Florida PACE Funding Agency, who has recorded 24, I have on that slide, it's almost 30 now, liens for these PACE improvements, despite the lack of any interlocal agreement with the county, the municipalities, or the tax collector's office. Before I continue with how they're doing that, I just want to give some examples of these loans. The first one was with a widow with a small home in South Vero. They went into a financing agreement with this agency for energy efficient air conditioning. The finance amount was $9,300 some to be collected over 10 years at 10% interest, which results in 10 annual payments of $1,500. That resident's tax bill, if it was collected that way, would go from roughly $350 last year to close to $2,000 for the next 10 years. And I have another example here of another widow as well, actually, that did a new roof. She financed $26,000 to be collected over 30 years at 10% interest. She's going to have 30 annual payments of almost $3,000, and her tax bill would go from $1,400 last year to over $4,000 for the next 30 years. So the big concern here that I haven't brought up yet is at any point during that 30 years, if that person can't pay their tax bill, we have to follow the standard process for selling a tax certificate on the property. And as little as 2 years after that, if it's still not paid, there's a tax deed sale where the property would go to auction. So there's no extensions or payment plans we can offer. That's state statute. This person could lose their home over this loan. As far as how this agency is doing this, in their words, they're saying that there's no interlocal agreements required based on a bond validation hearing last year. They stated that it determines they are an independent, separate legal entity authorized by general law to act separately, alternatively, independently, concurrently, and non-exclusively throughout the state by law and judicial determination. So that bond validation hearing, that took place in Leon County. We were given no notice of that, which is something that clearly affected us without informing us. The second statement they made is that notifying the tax collector of their intention to collect these non-ad valorem assessments, that satisfies the need for a written agreement. So despite we have no agreement with them, they're saying that by telling us we're collecting it, that counts as a written agreement, which we disagree with on that. There are a lot of other counties that are having these same issues right now. I have a few examples here. Sarasota and Pinellas counties, they both responded to this Florida PACE funding agency that they would not be collecting these assessments. They had actually interlocal agreements with the agency, and the agency terminated that interlocal agreement because they thought they didn't need it anymore. So now the counties are going and replying to them that they won't be collecting them due to the lack of an interlocal agreement. Palm Beach County has also filed suit against this Florida PACE funding agency, as well as Pinellas County. There was a Tampa Bay Times article about that lawsuit actually that gives a little summary here. Their lawsuit is multi-pronged. It alleges procedural issues, procedural problems in the Leon County case, including that it was never given a chance to defend itself in a case that ultimately affected the county. It also argues that the ruling itself improperly tramples on the county's home rule powers. Sarasota County also has a response here. Their counsel was actually also the general counsel for the Florida Tax Collectors Association, basically saying that their client, the county tax collector, has no authority under general law to collect these assessments as there's no interlocal agreement. And that's essentially what it says there. Pasco County gave a similar response here, saying that the bond validation judgment that took place in Leon County is not binding on Pasco County. The court's jurisdiction that the Florida PACE funding agency may operate independent of local government regulation on a statewide basis is beyond the statutory scope of bond validation proceedings and infringes upon the county's constitutional authority. Accordingly, if the judgment were applied to Pasco County, it would be a clear violation of Pasco County's constitutional and statutory procedural due process rights, because Pasco County was deprived of real opportunity to be heard on a matter that ultimately infringed upon the county's substantive rights. So with that, we kind of have an understanding of these loans and the concerns that are going on across the state. This is a short presentation just to let you guys know what's going on. There's 30 liens. I counted, there's a handful that are within the city limits of Sebastian that are being filed here, despite having no type of agreement with the county, with the city, or with us. Really, this is also to let homeowners know to research all their options when they're looking for some kind of financing for home improvements, because these programs have a lot of fine print. Like we were saying, if you come to a point where you can't pay your tax bill, you're going to ultimately lose your property eventually. Since our Board of County Commissioners has voted against the PACE program operating in the county, we won't be collecting these loans on the tax bill this year. That's something important to note as well. I just want to add this here, after we gave this presentation last few weeks ago to the county, the Florida PACE funding agency actually reached out and gave us a fact sheet here on all the facts on how the program works. And they have a section here on consumer protections that, the very first point is that, they can't finance things that are for longer than the useful life of the products. For example, a roof might be 30 years, but an air conditioner only 10 years. I have two examples of liens that were just filed last week, two of which actually were air conditioning or HVAC systems, and they're being financed for 20 years. So this person would be paying off their air conditioner probably after it breaks down and they have to replace it again. We have another one for a shingle roof for 30 years, which 15 years from now, their insurance company is going to make them replace it. So, it's clear that we have some concerns with this program and their assertion that we'll be collecting it. We won't be collecting it this year until there's further agreements. So, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
I do, Mr. Mayor. So, wow, okay. So, if the people that already have these existing agreements, how are they collecting that money? They're just paying it at the end of the year, or?
That's something we haven't discussed
Totally
with that
up to them,
agency.
okay.
Yeah, that's something, that they need to be figuring out.
Well, I thank you, because I received a few phone calls today with people concerned that the city was endorsing or suggesting PACE loans, and I'm happy to hear you're here to give a full trust presentation of the goods and the bads, and that everybody should definitely consider all their options, and that the city is in no way recommending, from my purview,
Right.
any kind of loan. They would need to make that decision fully on their own. This is a presentation for information.
Right,
Thank
exactly.
you, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. We've also had a lot of reports that I've heard of people going door to door trying to issue these, trying to tell people that there's a zero down program to get, a new roof for their house. And so that's something that we've been
So
hearing quite a bit of.
the people that are stuck in those loans right now, they're just stuck, and they're not gonna be able to add, the company's not gonna be able to add it to their taxes here, right?
That's correct, unless there's, some kind of agreement made or, some kind of a legal proceeding saying that we have to collect it, we won't be collecting it. Because as the law reads, as we see it, we need to have an agreement, the county or municipality has to have an agreement to offer these programs.
Okay. Good. Anybody else? Mr. Dodd, do you have anything for? All right, thank you.
No,
sir.
thank you. I think it was a great presentation, though. It shows us that we need to figure out how to communicate better, real well to our citizens if they don't want to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, brief announcements, Vice Mayor Nunn.
Are we going to have the presentation before the announcements of the insurance?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Gary Group, thank you, Mr. Benton. Is that the PowerPoint on 6 through 9?
Thank you.
Yeah, I think so.
Good evening. I'm just going to go over a brief overview of the employee benefits renewal for the coming plan year. So here's the agenda that we'll go through real quickly. Just your overall benefits program, we'll give a summary of that, a brief overview of the health insurance industry overall. We'll go through the renewal process and the results of that and our recommendations, and then I'll be happy to entertain any questions you might have after that. So just to summarize, your current benefit program consists of, one, you have medical insurance with Florida Blue. It's a high deductible health plan, which means that you have a $1,500 deductible for employees only, $3,000 for families, and out-of-pocket maximums of $4,500 for employees and $9,000 for families. In addition to that, the city does fund a health reimbursement account of $2,500 for employees and $5,000 for families. These are funds that your members can use to help alleviate some of the costs associated with these deductibles and out-of-pocket maximums. Your dental and vision insurance is currently with Humana, and you have life, long-term disability, short-term disability, and an employee assistance program with Lincoln Financial. So just to give a quick overview of the industry as a whole, currently industry-wide medical costs for 2024 are projected to increase 7%. Now that's a national average. In Florida, that trend tends to be a little bit higher. Currently, Florida's trending at about 10 to 11%. What's driving this? Largely driven by inflationary cost impacts. So in other words, as the cost of goods and services continue to increase, healthcare providers are feeling that extra cost. They are in turn renegotiating the reimbursements they receive from the insurance carriers, and then, of course, the insurance carriers are passing that down to the people who are buying the insurance. In addition to that, we have double-digit pharmacy trends, which are being driven by the increased utilization of specialty drugs on the market, and I'm sure everyone's seen all the commercials on TV for the various drugs that are coming out. It seems like every month there's a new one. And of course, these drugs are not cheap. They run from anywhere in the thousands to the tens of thousands of dollars. Medical inflation is being further exacerbated by clinical workforce shortages. So in order to combat that, you have hospital systems being forced to offer increased salaries to potential employees. And again, because their costs are increasing, they are renegotiating the contracts that they have with With the insurance carriers, you'll see in the news all the time, you'll hear about a new hospital system possibly dropping out of a network for a carrier. This is exactly what's going on behind the scenes, is they're trying to renegotiate those reimbursement rates to be able to pay people more money. I hate to be all doom and gloom when I do these presentations, so I do have a couple of positives here I'd like to highlight real quick. First, we do have some new biosimilar drugs coming to the market, which may help to drive down further future pharmaceutical costs. So basically, you have competitors coming out with equivalent drugs to the major players that are on the market now. Hopefully, that competition from the other pharmaceutical companies helps drive down prices. You have health plans making continued investments in care management programs, such as, for example, programs that help to manage diabetes or heart disease, those types of programs. Those have actually shown to be pretty effective. So as health plans continue to invest in that, hopefully we'll see the long-term benefit of having healthier people and thus, as a result of that, lower costs. And another plus is there has been a decrease in inpatient utilization of services and a shift to more outpatient care, which basically you get the same services you would as an inpatient, but at a much cheaper cost on an outpatient basis. So, as far as the city's renewal goes, for your medical insurance, Florida Blue came in with an initial increase of 19.7% to your premium rates. After a little back and forth with them, we were able to negotiate that down to 10% increase, which for you as the city is a little higher than normal, and I'll touch on that as I get a little further into the presentation. But you know, considering all the things I just mentioned, and that the trend in Florida tends to be around 10 to 11%, you're basically receiving a trend increase. Your dental and vision insurance were renewed at no increase by Humana, so that's great. No changes to your plan, so you have the same benefits at the same cost you've had them at, and that's guaranteed for the next 2 years. So we won't see any changes in that until at least the end of your 2025 plan year. Your life, long-term disability, and short-term disability and EAP program, again, these are all also renewing at no increase to your cost and no changes to your plan, and those are also all guaranteed for another 2 years, so that's great. And we did add short-term disability to your benefits portfolio this year. It was added mid-year, so that's also going to be guaranteed for 2 years to go along with the other lines of coverage. So based on everything I've said, our recommendation is that you do accept the renewal with Florida Blue at the 10% increase. Just a little background information here on how we've gotten to this point. The city had switched from United Healthcare back in 2017 to Florida Blue. At that time, United Healthcare was proposing a almost 22% increase to your premiums. So since making that switch to Florida Blue, the average increase, and that's including this year at the 10%, the average increase has been 4.1%, which is outstanding over that span of time. I don't think I actually have another group in my entire book of business that has that track record. So I think Florida Blue has done well by you over these last few years. During the 2022 calendar year, the plan realized an average network savings of 75.3%. So that's basically representing the savings from the total billed amount. That's how much your members are paying. That's the discount they're getting, a 75.3% discount, basically. That is actually very high. And I think that's a testament to the strength of Florida Blue's network in this area. On average, with any other carrier, we usually see more of like a 65 to high 60% discount. So 75.3 is really exceptional and very good. And also, we do recommend staying with this carrier because just for the simple fact of maintaining continuity with current carriers, it'll help avoid any possible disruptions when it comes to switching carriers and providers possibly dropping out of the network. You won't have to worry about that in terms of treatment for those members of yours who have ongoing chronic conditions. So that's another plus. We also recommend that you accept Humana's dental and vision renewals. I mean, they're at no increase and they're guaranteed for 2 years, so pretty good deal there. The same with Lincoln. Again, all those lines are renewing with no increase and they're guaranteed for 2 years. and I'll be happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you so much, sir. We may have some for you in the next segment, so.
Okay, all right.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, next thing on our agenda, Vice Mayor Nunn, brief announcements.
Yes. August 15th, we have our open house information session for the US 1 repaving project at North Indian River County Library from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. This is for the US 1 frontal area of our CRA district, including all of the marked parking spots and such. So please come to that.
All right, thank you so much. Now, on to public input. Is there anyone from the public would like to speak on anything that's not on the current agenda and is new? Anyone on Zoom?
Nobody's raised their hand.
All right, public input is closed.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, there's another announcement that I just remembered is not on this list.
Really? Let's hear it.
The Sebastian Grill Out Night is Friday, August 11th from 5:30 to 8 p.m., mostly in the CRA district. All of your local stores and restaurants and other businesses will be involved. They'll have a presentation, they'll have food, they'll have all kinds of different things. But if you go to the Sebastian Area Chamber of Commerce, you can find out about that event. It's a great time. It's always a great time. So please check that out this Friday night.
Yeah, and they have flyers at the chamber, so if anybody want to know what stores are going to be participating, you can just go by the chamber and pick up one of their maps and follow the map on that evening.
Thank you.
All right, public input is closed. Consent agenda. Council, what's your pleasure on the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion, but I guess we'll get the pages right in this. So we'll have that, item 8A is for pages 10 through 12.
Right.
Item 8B is the correct pages 13 through 20. 8C is 21 through page 33. 8D is page 34 through 37. And E is 38 through 40. So with those changes, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second that.
All right, any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
And Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Does anybody have any committee reports?
I do not.
All right, moving on to item 9A, Natural Resources Board, Sustainable Sebastian Initiative Update. Yes, ma'am, come on down.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Hi. Well, thank you, Council, for having me, and good evening. All right, tonight I'm going to talk to you about the Sustainable Sebastian program, the progress we've made so far, and what we'll be planning to do for the final stretch of the 5-year action plan. Now, as you guys may remember, it was developed in 2019 via resolution that was passed by City Council, and it's managed by the Natural Resources Board and is aimed at making Sebastian a more sustainable place. All right, the Sustainable Sebastian program is comprised of 6 initiatives centering around the reduction of single-use plastics, native landscaping, the city's policies, codes, and ordinances, the city's operational carbon footprint, the quality of the city's water bodies, and the city's overall livability for the sake of the community. All right. Based on the original 5-year plan, we have completed 3 goals from our single-use plastics and also our native landscaping goals, so 3 tasks each for those goals. We've completed 5 of the tasks related to our city's policies and codes. To reduce our operational carbon footprint, we've completed 6 of the tasks we initially assigned. And to protect and restore our water quality, we've completed an additional 6 tasks. And for, last but not least, for the city's overall livability, we've completed yet another task. All in all, what we've done for thus far to the state, we've added bottle refill stations to our city's parks. We've held annual cleanup events. We've added more native plantings to city's properties. The comprehensive plan was adopted in 2021, and in 2020 and 2021, respectively, the IPM plans for parks and stormwater were developed. Again, kind of overlapping with the single-use plastics reduction goal for the city's operational carbon footprint, we've added bottle refill stations. Bike racks were installed in our parks. We've held our annual recycling and shredding event that coincides with our Earth Day event every year. Hybrid and electric vehicles were added to our city's fleet. Recycling bins have been added to every office within City Hall. Workshops have been held in the past regards to stormwater and low-impact development or low-impact design, and we've hosted speaker events at some of our city's locations. And we've also received grant assistance for our Tulip Pond project. And last but not least, we've added scavenger hunt markers at Riverview Park for people to search for. Considering the hurdles that we face, such as COVID, which kind of interrupted not only daily life, but many projects that were in the works, there's been a lot accomplished, so that's something to be grateful for and something to be very proud of. As the original plan began in October of 2019, to finish out our 5-year implementation plan we have through the end of September 2024. So for the remaining 14 months, staff in the NRB have selected the top priorities to be focused on for each initiative from the set of goals associated with each. We've assigned champions from the members of the Natural Resources Board for each of the 6 initiatives who will be charged with the tasks to help move the respective projects forward. And of course, if there's anything that a board member can't take on, it can always be reassigned to another board member. And we do have 7 regular board members and 1 alternate, so the assignments don't align perfectly with the number of goals and task initiatives that we do have, so we will make it work as we can. For the reduction of single-use plastics, our focus is on improving the practices at the City of Sebastian. Once we've made these changes, we'll have a foundation from which we can help educate the public and improve practices for events held on city property. We have 6 tasks remaining for this. Our lead champion is Ruth Callahan, to be assisted by Jeffrey Carrier. For native landscaping, our focus is on increasing the number of native plantings on city property, and our champion is Sharida Billman. Our next move for our codes and policies is to revise the current tree protection and landscaping ordinances, and our champion is Thomas Carano. Right. To reduce our operational carbon footprint, we aim to conduct an audit for our operations to determine areas where we can reduce our resource consumption and coordinate with our staff regarding the implementation of necessary changes. Our champion for that is Donna Ware, to also be assisted by Jeffrey Carrier. And Jeff, I have assigned to both the first initiative and this initiative because there's so much overlap and there will probably be a lot of assistance required in these areas. To improve the quality of our city's water bodies, we've already begun development of our green infrastructure plan, which is essentially an inventory of our green spaces, corridors, and our stormwater conveyance system. And through this plan, we'll help develop management recommendations for each tract, park, and property owned by the city. We also aim to potentially evaluate more codes and ordinances that can be altered to align with low-impact development or design techniques and best management practices for land managers. And our champion for this one is Nicole Mossbleck. To improve the city's overall livability, a walk audit is to be conducted to evaluate our current sidewalks and pathways and to find areas for improvement. And our champion for this is Charles Stademan. To summarize what we're aiming for the next few months, we're going to work towards reducing single-use plastics here in the city's operations, both at City Hall and the compound and wherever else is possible, and then use what we've learned to engage with the community. We're going to be adding more plantings to city property, so we've already got the Tulip Pond project in the works, and we're aiming for, some of the other parks, possibly some of our other stormwater ponds that can be doctored up to make them more functional and more aesthetically pleasing. We'll improve our tree protection and landscaping ordinances. This is an activity that will likely take a committee. So we'll have a subcommittee of the members from the Natural Resources Board to meet this end. We will audit our city's operations to find other areas for resource consumption. We'll develop the green infrastructure plan and assess any applicable ordinances to go along with that. And we will be conducting the walk audit for the sake of our city sidewalks. Meetings are to be held with each individual board member to discuss the next steps forward, and progress updates will be held at each NRB meeting. So if you are interested in how it's going consistently, we encourage you to listen in on those meetings. And like I said before, there are some goals that will involve multiple board members, and if there's a board member that can't take on a particular task, those tasks would be reassigned to a different board member. Okay. Thank you all so much for your time and for your support over the past few years for Sustainable Sebastian. And if there's any questions, I'd be
All
happy
right.
to entertain them.
Yeah, thank you so much, and I really want to thank the Natural Resources Board. Chairman Charles Stadelman is here. But there, I listen to those meetings, and I have conversations with Felicia and those guys all the time. And I really like the fact that they're moving forward with these initiatives. What do you say? We have 14 months, 15 months or something?
That's correct.
I'm looking forward to those initiatives being completed. So over the next 14 months. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Just keep up the good work, and we really appreciate everything you guys do. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. I'll echo everything the mayor just said. Thank you. You're an amazing employee, and we have a great resource board that works very hard for doing what's right for the city and the environment. So thank you.
I think it's the only board in the city where the members actually took on jobs themselves.
Yeah.
And I saw Mr. Stadelman, he didn't get stuck with all of the initiatives, monitoring them, but it seemed evenly divided, and everybody was, motivated to look after them and get them done. So thank you.
Yeah, that's what I really want to say. Obviously, the commitment by that board, the members on that board, is really what's going to make that happen like that. It's just awesome. Thank you.
I heard Charles say, I'll take what other people don't want.
Oh, yeah,
I'll take the
that's
hard
what he said.
tasks, and that's appreciated. Always be willing to step up up to the plate.
I'll wait till the last one. You give me all the hard stuff. Is that what you said, Charles? Mr. Dodd, are you here in space?
I have one comment. Well, first of all, it's the Natural Resources Board continually amazes me in how good they are and how dedicated they are to the Sebastian. My only real comment about this is that there's not a whole lot of money budgeted in place to support these efforts. They've got 15 months. Some of these things may require some funds, and we're in our budgeting cycle right now. So I would highly appreciate if it's possible to see if the staff thinks that sticking some money in a pot to help them resolve these goals in the next 15 months would be beneficial, and we do that during this budget cycle. Some of this stuff is going to require education. The landscape code is going to be a major deal, and that's going to require an effort, kind of like what was done with the pest management plans, with a lot of outside people being involved in it, and possibly even bringing in some consultants. So there is some money that's going to have to be spent to make this happen in 15 months. And so the budget cycle we're in right now is basically covering that 15-month window. So I would personally like to see the city devote some funds in our upcoming budget to try to make this happen. This isn't the end of this. People who think that the end of this first phase is it. There's a lot of stuff in that original Sustainable Sebastian scope that hasn't even been attacked yet. The business community hasn't been educated well enough on how to do away with single-use plastics. There's a lot of stuff like that that really hasn't even been attacked yet. And that's going to have to come out in the next round of task and goals. That's it for me.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, Felicia.
Thank you all.
All right. We're gonna go off script here a little bit. Mr. Ryan Butler just stepped in before we move on to the unfinished business. Mr. Ryan Butler, will you please come forward, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council.
Good evening, sir.
Appreciate you accommodating me tonight. I'm the clerk of court for Indian River County, and for too long, I think the citizens of Sebastian and North County have had to travel all the way down to the courthouse and bureau to do something as simple as get a marriage license, or file a small claims case, or record a notice of commencement, or a will in the official records. So I'm very happy tonight to announce that on Monday, August 14th, The clerk's office will be opening an office right here in Sebastian on US 1, next to the tax collector's office in the Sebastian Crossing Shopping Center, which is pictured above. And we're going to be open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8:30 to 5. And anything that you can do at the courthouse, you'll be able to do at this branch office, except attend court. If you have to go to court, you have to go to court. But anything else we can take care of at the branch office. We're going to be a full-service operation there. A couple of years ago, we actually had an office in that location. We offered some limited services, and we listened to the citizens who asked if they could do certain things that they weren't able to do last time, like, for example, record a notice of commencement, which every time you get a notice of commencement, it has to be recorded in the official records so you can put that fence up or get that new roof. And we're going to be able to do that now and accommodate that right here in Sebastian. So you don't have to travel down to the courthouse in Bureau to get that done. So we're very happy about this. Friday night, we're going to be taking part in the Sebastian Grill Out night, sponsored by your Chamber of Commerce, along with the tax collector. She invited us to join her, so we'll be there from 5:30 to 8 on Friday. So if you have a chance, we encourage you to stop by. You'll be able to see the new office and take a look around. We're also going to have a public computer available in the front of our office, so if you need to do any research in the court records or the official records, you can do it right there. You'll have full access to all of our records, just as though you were down at the courthouse.
Oh, all right. Thank you so much. Thank you for bringing that back to Sebastian. We really need it.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, I got one question.
Yes.
Well, of course, you don't have to go through a metal detector here, but I was wondering, the program that you were starting at the court about assistance for people that are trying to file anything, do you think there's a possibility of having that person come up to Sebastian one day a week? Maybe you want to expand a little bit on that program that you guys have started.
Sure. So we're going to be starting a Pro Se Self-Help Center at the courthouse. It has been named after our clerk, Jeffrey Smith, the Jeffrey R. Smith Pro Se Self-Help Center. And we expect that to be up and running by next month. We're actually just waiting on some furniture to arrive so we can get that set up in the courthouse. We have an office there. The plan is to expand that, and I think the Sebastian office of the clerk would be an excellent place to do that. We just have one employee right now, and so her time is going to be split between the courthouse and initially at the Up Center in Vero. But I have already talked to her about coming up to Sebastian because she actually lives in the North County. And I know she's looking forward to being able to help out in Sebastian and provide that one-on-one assistance. The center's purpose is to help people who don't have attorneys, who just need assistance in filing a court case, whether it be a divorce case or small claims or really any sort of civil case, not criminal cases, but any civil case where someone needs assistance, injunctions for protection. Sometimes those can be very difficult to navigate because of all the paperwork you have to fill out. So she is going to be able to assist people, and I look forward to her being able to come up to Sebastian and do some of that up here.
All right. Thank you, Ryan.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Dodd, do you have anything for Mr. Butler? I'm looking in space for him.
No, thank you.
All right. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks for coming up. All right, next item, no public hearing, so we're going to go to unfinished business, item 11A. Anybody?
So, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Yes.
So this item was on the agenda at the last council meeting in July 26th. This is the grant agreement between the city and FDEP to update our comprehensive vulnerability assessment plan. Once we had executed a document and sent it off to FDEP, literally the next day on the 27th, they responded back that they had some requested changes in the agreement. So in reviewing those changes, it was determined that we needed to bring it back to City Council for your approval once again before we execute the document again. So those changes were outlined on page 142 of the agenda packet. That just outlines, most of them are just wordsmithing and procedural changes in the document, but they were sufficient enough to bring it back to you all. So it's up for your consideration tonight.
Yes, sir. All right. Thank you. Council, do you have any?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of item 11A.
Second.
All right, you have a motion and a second. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this? Do we have anyone on Zoom?
Nobody's raised their hand.
Okay, public input's closed. Any more discussion from council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
And Vice Mayor Nunn?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, next item on our agenda is item 12A, first reading ordinance number O-23-08. City Attorney.
Thank you, sir. This is ordinance number 0-23-08, an ordinance of the City of Sebastian, Indian River County, Florida, relating to waterways, amending the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 110, Waterways, providing for severability and repeal of laws in conflict hereof, sorry, that's not there, but providing for codification, providing for scrivener's errors, and providing for effective date.
This is
Out of order.
something wrong with the page numbers on that, right?
No, we're good.
All right.
43.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you so much.
So, Mr. Mayor, this
Yes.
ordinance is to address a code issue that, in regards to our potential future, we had requested a fine grant to help us with the installation of our marine law enforcement facility at the Southern Twin Pier. And in reviewing that, staff had noticed that we had some conflicts within our code that would prohibit us from mooring boats at that facility for a certain length of time. So with that, one of the major changes in this is to allow an exemption for law enforcement vessels to have the ability to dock at city docks and piers or moor at city docks and piers for an extended period of time. They're exempt from the 24-hour requirement limitation that's in there. And with that, there were also some statutes that we were not in compliance within the code, so we had to update those and made all the changes we needed to make at this time via this ordinance to the code for that. But I've also got Ms. Frazier here to address any specific questions that you have. She's kind of overseen this project and took on the challenge of addressing these concerns within the code.
All right, thank you. I don't have any questions. Any member here?
No.
No? Mr. Dodd?
No, this is just a change to the code to allow us to do this. This isn't actually the application defined for the grant or any type of a design on that, if I understand it right. So, we certainly need to make these changes so we could do that change to that pier.
Yes, sir. All right.
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance O-23-08 with on first reading and set a public hearing for September 13th, 2023.
Second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this item? Do we have anyone with their hand raised on Zoom?
Nobody on Zoom.
All right, public input's closed. Any more discussion from council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
And Vice Mayor Nunn?
Yes.
The motion carries. Thank
All
you.
right. All right, next item on our agenda is item 12B, Resolution 23-16, City Attorney.
Resolution number R-23-16, a resolution of the City of Sebastian, Indian River County, Florida, recognizing certain adjustments to the budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2022 and ending September 30th, 2023, as providing for in Exhibit A, providing for conflicts, providing for scrivener's errors, and providing for an effective date.
All right, thank you so much. Can you guys look at page 152, the second paragraph, down where it says, there was one adjustment done during the quarter to use of the, should that be something different? It should have been during the quarter to use for general fund revenue or something. The wording there is just.
To use the general fund R&R account for replacing city hall equipment.
All right.
The word of doesn't belong there.
Yeah, Mr. Benton,
Yeah, so we can just remove the word of
right,
in that section.
okay. All right, on the next page, 154, under the resolution side, under the second paragraph of whereas, should that be will report or should report in accordance with the annual budget? We got two, we got should will. All right.
Should be.
Are we there?
Yeah, it said should be reported.
Right.
There'd be an extra should and will.
Okay, well, we just need to, legally, we just need to make sure that it's understood by everybody. Either we will or should. So,
Shall.
or shall. There you go.
Pick a word. Pick a word.
Pick a word.
Shall.
Okay, so it's shall. So
Shall.
we'll
Yeah,
make
we'll
sure
go
we
with
make
shall.
that correction, so.
All right.
All right, do we have a motion on that? Do we have any discussion, council? Oh,
Nope, I
Mr.
think
Kilgore.
He's giving a presentation.
There you go. Bring it on.
If you're pleased to talk about numbers now instead of words, but yeah, this is the third quarter report for the period ending June 30th. I've done what we always do every quarter, and I've presented all the budget adjustments that have made during the quarter. I've summarized the major funds. It's all good news. The general fund departments have only spent like 69% of their budgets, as opposed to the 75% appointed this year. I did want to point out in the American Rescue Plan Act, we did have approval from the council to reallocate the $750,000 to Human Drive to add that to the road improvements expenditures out of the American Rescue Plan Act. The projected fund balances for not only the general fund, but stormwater, golf course, airport, and building funds are really better than we had anticipated. Golf course is still going great guns as far as their collections for their services. And other than the report that I did give you on the capital projects and where our money is deposited with the bank and the State Board of Administration and outstanding loans, I've got nothing really to add. I would only point out that on the capital project status report, I think we are doing much better as far as clearing out some of the older projects. There are a few large ones that make the bottom line totals look large, but they are basically things that are on hold or in the process getting permitting or seeking grant funds. So I'd be glad to take any questions you have.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Kilgore?
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, may I?
Yes, sir.
Ken, is this the first expenditure from the R&R account that we've done this year? This thing for the replacement of City Hall
The balconies.
refrigerator?
Yeah.
The balconies on the
Did you
front
hear?
side.
Did you hear me?
He's
No,
asking,
we're having a hard
Is that about
time hearing you,
balconies?
Ed.
he's asking if this is the first money we've taken out of the R&R, what we're using for the balconies.
There's only been a couple of items out of R&R. That was, yes, we did take $36,000 out for the balconies, but also we replaced a refrigerator for about $1,100 at City Hall.
Well, I guess my question is that it shows a budget before change of $275,000 for the R&R, and it's actually, until we start a new budget year, it's not $275 anymore because we've already pulled money out for the balcony, so it's less than that. I just want to make sure we're not replenishing that R&R account to $275 every time we pull money out of it, because that's not what was agreed to by the council. The council agreed to take it to $275 at the beginning of each budget year.
That's
So,
correct.
yeah. I just want to make sure that we're not bumping that budget back up to 275 in the R&R account every time we spend money out of it. That's just it's just a concern that I had. So.
We do replenish it at year end to start the new year with the 275.
Right.
But we don't replenish it.
Well, my big question was that on this adjustments being submitted for council approval, it said if the equipment was the refrigerator and it said appropriation for R&R account, budget before change 275, budget adjustment, budget after change 273. In reality, it wasn't 275 coming into this change. It was less than that because we've already spent money out of this year's 275. So the amount that was remaining in the budget was less than 275. That's all I'm saying. So, and I'm actually fine. I just wanted to bring that up with that. And Mr. Mayor, given that, I'll make a motion that we approve resolution R2316 with the two changes that were identified previously. That's it.
All right, thank you, sir.
I second that.
We got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this? Anyone with their hand raised on Zoom?
Nobody's raised their hand.
All right, public input's closed. Mr. McPartland?
I just like to always point out the police volunteers in there for the quarter that they gave. They gave the equivalent of over 5 full-time employees for services that they complete for the department and for the citizens of Sebastian.
All right, thank you so much. I had a couple of marks on here, and I want to know where they were. Yeah, it looks like the number of code enforcement calls have gone down over the last 3 months from previous. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Well, that's a good thing. That means everybody's doing good then, hopefully. All right, no more discussion? Madam Clerk?
Councilmember McPartland?
Yes.
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nunn?
Yes.
And Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Where am I at, 12C?
Yes.
Next item is item 12C. Let me get to it. Green. City Attorney?
Thank you, Mayor. This is resolution number R-23-17, a resolution of the City of Sebastian, Indian River County, Florida, providing for the rescission of resolution number R-18-22 regarding no-through truck zone and approval to remove no-through truck signs citywide, providing for and implementing actions related thereto, providing for a savings provision, providing for conflicts, providing for scrivener's errors, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
All right, thank you so much. Staff?
Thank you, Mayor. So in regards, we had received numerous citizen inquiries into this, and our roads department sign shop had done some investigation, and we found that we were not compliant with MUTCD standards and regulations with the no-through truck signage that we have within the city. So total within the city, there are 16 signs located throughout the city. The map is the last page of the agenda transmitter that shows all those locations. So with that, there is one section that 2 of the signs that were installed were via resolution. So within this resolution, we're asking for you to rescind the resolution regarding those 2 signs, but the total project is 16 signs to remove in order to be in compliance. We were unable to meet the requirements for MUTCD. We needed to add definitions and some legal descriptions on the signage, which then would also require us to have our law enforcement, our police department, become designated to perform motor vehicle weight class designations, and we don't have the equipment or the staff trained to be able to do that, so we were unable to meet that requirement.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Any questions from council?
No, it seems straightforward.
I've got one point I'd like to bring up if I can, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
This is referencing, in the resolution it says no through truck zones. But part of these signs don't actually say no through trucks. It says no commercial vehicles. And I think that's included in the categorization of no through truck zones. Am I correct in that?
That is correct. So I believe what you're referencing is the resolution identified that no through trucks zones should be established via that resolution. However, no commercial trucks signage was installed. So via this, that signage will be removed as well. With this.
Because that signage actually says no commercial vehicles, which means FedEx trucks, for example. So it's good that we're resolving that.
Correct, and those signs will all be removed if it's approved.
Okay.
If I could just interrupt, it is referenced there under section 2B, Councilmember Dodd, including any signs related. So that would be covered.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
So basically, we're getting rid of signs that we couldn't enforce anyway.
Exactly.
So I make a motion to approve resolution number R-23-17.
Second.
We need to add something to that, right? We have to rescind that other one, or this takes care of all of that?
So R-23-17 handles the rescission portion and also directs staff to remove the signs.
Okay.
So it's all encompassed in the
Okay,
resolution.
good. That's what I wanted to know. All right. We have a motion and a second, right? Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this? Do we have anyone with their hand raised on Zoom?
Nobody's raised their hand.
Public input's closed. Any further discussion from members of council? Madam Clerk?
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartland?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, city attorney matters.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no announcements at this time.
All right, thank you so much. City manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a couple items. The first one is in regards to the US 1 resurfacing project that will take place from Harrison Street to south of Davis Street that was mentioned during our events coming up with the open house taking place on August 15th. We have received very minimal information in regards to road closures, FDOT flyers. We have not received anything formally. This all came late last week to staff's attention. So we're trying to get more information from FDOT so we can get the word out to the public as much as possible. We do have a staff member that's going down to a project meeting tomorrow, and we're going to try to get as much information out. As soon as they get back, we'll get it out to the public and pass it along to you all. But their tentative plan was to start construction August 17th. I don't know that they're still on that timeline, just based on the signage that I've seen out. But that's kind of their plan, is August 17th. So just want to make sure the public is aware that the resurfacing project is getting started pretty quickly here as we come up in the next month.
Yeah, it's going to create a lot of delays and headaches out there, so be prepared for that.
Yes. Second thing I wanted to address is about a week ago, we had a small fish kill that was located here in our lagoon here in Sebastian. And just a couple points of clarity in regards to the information that we've received from local groups. And actually, I was at a Indian River Lagoon Management Board meeting today, and it was referenced, and it was brought up that, typically with these instances, based on the research and what they found was happening, was that there was a large alga bloom that was present in the area. Some of the freshwater releases and the high water temperatures had caused that bloom to kind of sink towards the bottom, and dissolved oxygen levels and high water temperatures had resulted in the small fish kill that we saw. One of the interesting things is typically you don't see many of these alga blooms around the inlets because the water's flushing in and out. So they're doing a little bit more research to figure out exactly what was happening with that, and it was just an interesting fact they found that it happened, so close to the inlet, because historically those blooms are further away from the inlets. So they're doing some research on that, but that's the determination on what caused the fish kill based on the information that the city has received so far. So I just wanted to provide that clarity on what we had found. I know there were some things on social media and stuff, so I just wanted to clarify that. And that is it for the updates I have tonight.
All right, thank you so much, sir. City Clerk? All right, council members matters, Mr. McPartlin.
All I want to say is, school's back, get started again this week, Wednesday, and then in full bloom on Thursday. So we were talking about signs, so everybody pay attention to the signs, slow down, there could be children crossing, and if you're passing through a school zone. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. McPartlin, and I have nothing else for this evening. Vice Mayor, none.
Nothing for me tonight.
All right, thank you so much. Councilmember Dixon is excused, and we're going to go past that. Mr. Dodd.
I just want to apologize for the late Zoom call in. I was having a little procedure at the West Palm Beach VA Hospital, and I was supposed to be out of there before 4, and I didn't get out till after 5. So, apologize. I intended to be there in person. Thank you.
All right, you're doing all right, though, right?
I'm doing fine.
All right, thank you so much. All right, there being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.